All right, let's talk about the most incredible and sometimes the most frustrating tool you'll ever have, your own mind. Is it a source of pure genius? A miraculous circus with everything working in perfect harmony? Or does it feel more like a machine that just churns out misery? We're going to dive into that today.
The spiritual teacher Sadhguru has this brilliant way of putting it. He says to think of your mind like a circus. A truly great circus looks chaotic, right? But it's actually an unbelievably coordinated performance. So the real question for you is, are you experiencing that spectacular coordinated show? Or are you just stuck with the chaos and the clowns?
So, if our minds have this incredible potential to be a spectacular circus, why on earth does it so often feel like a total mess? Well, there's a very specific reason, a fundamental trap that almost all of us fall into, and it has a name: identification.
This quote from Sadhguru really just nails it. Identification, it's when our intellect, our amazing ability to tell one thing from another, gets stuck. It just latches onto ideas, beliefs, and identities. And once it does that, our whole view of reality gets twisted. We're just not seeing things clearly anymore.
Okay, here's a fantastic way to picture this. Think of your intellect as a super sharp knife. Its whole job is to cut through reality and discriminate. This is a chair, that's a window. Simple, right? But here's the catch. Every single time that knife makes a cut, a little bit of residue from the experience sticks to the blade. And over the years, that residue just builds up and up until the blade is so caked and grimy that it's just a dull, biased, and pretty much useless tool.
And what exactly is this sticky residue we're talking about? Well, it's all the stuff we identify with. It starts with the basics, our body, our gender, our family, our country, our job, but it goes deeper. It's also our strongest beliefs about what's good and what's bad. All of these labels, they're the gunk sticking to the knife, making it impossible to get a clean cut on reality.
All right, so if the problem is a dirty, gunked-up knife, what do? How do we clean it? This is where the path of spirituality comes in. And look, it's probably not what you're thinking. We are not talking about religion or dogma here. We're talking about a practical process, a way to scrub the intellect clean from all that built-up residue.
This definition just clarifies the goal so perfectly. Spirituality isn't about believing in some fantasy. It is a hands-on process. The entire point is to free your mind from its own noise. The constant fears, the worries, that nonstop chatter, so you can actually experience some inner peace. It's about making your mind functional, not about blind faith.
So spirituality isn't about piling on more beliefs. Actually, it's the total opposite. It's a process of taking things apart, of deconstruction. It's about questioning all the things you've just accepted as true. It really is a personal investigation into how reality works. And the goal is to get in tune with what's actually true, not with some prepackaged ideology someone handed you.
So how does this actually work in our day-to-day lives? What's the practical approach? The whole secret is in understanding the difference between two very important words: involvement and entanglement. Getting this distinction is how you can finally experience life fully without getting trapped in all the misery.
I mean, this is the classic human dilemma, isn't it? We're here on this planet to live, to experience life, and that means we have to get involved. We crave that deep involvement. But we've all been burned, right? We've learned that getting involved often leads to getting hurt, so we instinctively pull back. We're terrified of the entanglement that seems to always come along for the ride.
And here is the absolute key insight. Involvement itself is never, ever the problem. The problem is entanglement, and entanglement is always caused by identification. The moment you are involved with something because it is mine, my spouse, my job, my beliefs, that's when your involvement becomes selective, and that is the source of fear and misery. True involvement, on the other hand, is just this total, indiscriminate willingness to engage with life itself, with everything.
Think about a trapeze artist for a second. For that whole spectacular act to work, they have to go all out on every single swing. They can't hesitate, they can't be selective about which swing they really try on. If they do, the whole circus comes crashing down. Life is exactly the same. If you want to make it a symphony, you have to engage with that same passion and total willingness for everything, not just the few things you've decided are yours.
So, what actually happens when you pull this off, when you manage to clean that knife of identification, and you learn how to be involved without getting entangled? Well, the payoff is huge. It's nothing less than transforming your mind from a chaotic mess into an absolute miracle.
This right here is the ultimate perspective shift. We're always told we need to control our minds, to tame them, to fight them, but honestly, that's a battle you are never going to win. The goal isn't to put your mind in a cage. The goal is to set it free,
to liberate it from the chains of identification. A liberated mind finally becomes what it was always meant to be. It is that spectacular circus, that symphony of perfectly coordinated actions. It's no longer the source of your misery, it becomes the very vehicle for your joy. It becomes, as Sadhguru puts it, a ladder to the divine, not a wall that's keeping you out.
So let's just end with this question. For most of us, most of the time, the mind feels like this solid wall that we keep running into. But what if you could see it in a totally new light? What if, instead of being a barrier that's trapping you, your mind was actually a stairway to something incredible? What would you do differently, starting right now?